Now this morning, we're getting some car care tips for spring. There are a few things that you can do right now to make you help enjoy your driving in the warmer weather and actually save a little money, too. TV6's Andrew Lacombe joins us from Marquette Township this morning. He's at Fry Chevrolet with more. Andrew?
Good morning, Vicki. Yeah, we're inside the new service department here at Fry Chevrolet, and we're going to be getting some car care tips throughout the morning. As you said, we're going to start now by looking at some parts. I'm joined now by Jim Grunstone, the owner and dealer here. Thanks so much for being here. And what's one of the first things that people should look at?
I'd like to head us towards tires right off the get-go. Tires are such an important part of being safe on the highway today. And winter has a habit of wearing the tires a lot quicker because of potholes and bad inflation pressures and things like that. So we've got a glowing example of one here that's bald on one side and has some tread left on the other side. And actually, even the good part of this tire is pretty thin. But certainly tire pressures are an important thing, and we often in inclement weather we don't think about our tires too much. As long as they get us from point A to point B, we're pretty fortunate. So tire pressure, and then wheel alignment. And wheel alignment, all of those parts in the front end of your car, which there are plenty of them, all need to be in a perfect pattern that the manufacturer set for your car. When the wheel alignment goes amiss, that's what happens to this particular tire. It starts to wear peculiarly to one side or the other. Rarely do you get a tire to wear perfectly flat. And so what we want to watch out for in spring, get ready for the summer driving season and things like that, is that the front end is still aligned. It's pointing straight down the road the way the manufacturer made it. And generally speaking, your tires will last a long time by doing that.
Now, checking alignment, is that something that can be pretty obvious to just my eye, or something to bring into to your dealer to have them check it out?
One of the symptoms of probably poor alignment is the car is going to want to pull one direction or the other. It may take to the center line. It might take to the shoulder, depending on how it's wearing. But certainly in this tire situation, that would be a clear benchmark of something that is not right. Normally, a tire wants to wear perfectly flat if you have the perfect world for it. So if you, as a layperson to the tire industry, and you're looking at your car and you go, it's bald on one side, one might think it'd be a good idea to find your local service provider and have someone check, because tires are expensive today.
Okay, and moving on, we have another part of a car that, well, this one has seen better days, I'd say.
Certainly. I think we should probably advance to brakes next. And this is a brake pad. It's not a very good one by any means. This is one that came off a car yesterday in our service department. I asked our technicians to find me some of the glowing examples of worn out parts. But this is actually a new one. And so if we put them side by side, you can see dramatically that this one has a lot of pad material left because it's obviously brand new. There's no rust and corrosion on it. And this is what a really good brake pad should look like coming fresh out of the box, which I just took out of a GM box. So brakes would be the next thing. If you can feel the brake pedal kind of pushing under your foot when you put the brake on, it's called brake pulsation. It means that the brakes have worn peculiarly, and that's probably something that you want to look at too, because this is a disposable part. It does wear down, just like this one does. It's supposed to do that, but what we're trying to prevent the wear is on the rotors, and that's the piece that this pushes against. If we can preserve your rotors, we preserve your investment. We minimize your service bill when it comes to taking care of your brakes.
Okay, and last we have, well, hoping for some April showers, rain showers, not snow, and we've got a windshield wiper here.
Yes, I understand that Vicki needed wipers, but this is one of the glowing examples of a windshield wiper that has seen better days. Normally you don't have angel hair pasta rubber coming off your wiper. Of course, that should be here like this, but this is a very well-worn wiper blade. Probably had many, many episodes of coming down the highway in cruddy weather, but the danger of this is, of course, you can't see. Along with that, the danger, as I was showing you a little bit ago, is that there's very sharp metal parts on the wiper blade that hold the rubber together. If this wears to the point and the wiper rolls over far enough, it can permanently scratch the windshield. So a wiper is a very inexpensive, disposable part. It is disposable. Depending on how much or how little we use them, you have to change them more frequently, of course. But when it looks like this, that is a time to not run your wipers if you can help it, and go and find some place or someone that would gladly help you get the wipers changed.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Coming up in the next half hour of your morning show, we'll be back here at Fry Chevrolet looking at some areas of the car that you can clean up here as we get ready for spring and hopefully some warmer weather. So we'll be back here more later on, live in Marquette Township this morning. Andrew Lacombe, TV6 News.
Hey, Andrew, if you could ask Jim a real quick question for me about tires, because I've heard, like, you know, sometimes, especially with those new skinny tires, that if you replace one, you have to replace them all. Is that true, or can you still get away by replacing them one at a time?
Vicky's wondering about tires, you know, especially with smaller tires, it seems when you replace one, you have to replace them all. Is that changed by the car?
Actually, we would at least suggest by the axle. So if you've got one very, very badly worn front one, it's probably very appropriate to get a price for two and to change both of them on the steering axle or the front of the car. Certainly, if they're all wearing dramatically fast or they've all done their lifespan, then changing four at once is a really good idea. It gets them all back to the proper diameter, it gets them all back to the proper tread, and it gives you the opportunity to do what we call tire rotations, and those are very important. About every time you have your oil changed, you should have your tires rotated. Fronts to the rear, rears to the front. Usually they cross unless you have directional tires. But I think that certainly all four allows you to do that. I would hesitate to suggest that you'd put two on the front and then start that rotation process, because eventually you get the pre-worn ones back to the front, and that's where you really need traction. You need good tread, and you need to be able to steer and turn and brake.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Jim, and back to you, Vicki.
April is also Car Care Month, and although we're still a little skeptical about spring is actually here, we're getting some car care tips from a local dealer this morning. Grab a pen and paper. These are things that you might want to check out as we change into the warmer weather. Andrew Lacombe joins us again from Marquette Township with more. Morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Vicki. Yeah, we're hoping we're changing into warmer weather, and we're learning more about what we should be doing to prepare for that. Jim Grunstrom from Fry Chevy back with us here again. And Jim, so what are we thinking about as we go to think about the outside of our vehicles?
The environment up here is really harsh. There's no doubt about it. If you get down to sun country, you might have a little sun fading issue, but you certainly don't have the corrosion and the dirt and all the environmental splash and whatnot that we have on our roads up here in the wintertime. So cars have taken their 4 or 5 or 6 months of punishment since winter started, and now it's probably time to unpunish them. So the first thing I would suggest is that we try and get as much salt off the car as possible. Salt's an inherent thing. We've got to do it. We've got to find bare pavement in the wintertime. But it is everywhere. It's underneath the car. It's in the paint. It's in the door openings and whatnot. So a really good wash and a good rinse underneath. And, of course, a lot of the car washes in the community have the ability to do an underbody flush. And we really want to try and do that, because that stuff is caustic. It wants to eat. Salt makes rust. You know, I think we all kind of sort of know that. And so clean would be the first thing I would suggest. And whether you love Saturday afternoon in your driveway with the hose and the soap and the bucket and whatnot, or you want someone professionally to do that, there are certainly resources available in the community to make your car look gorgeous if you don't have the time or don't want to take the time.
We've got two different examples here, I guess. This one a little cleaner than... We have something to compare it to over here?
Absolutely. This truck has survived very nicely the winter. The flares are clean, and the side of the truck is clean. It looks like this person actually probably washes his or her truck on a fairly regular basis. And then we have another glowing example right alongside of us here, unfortunately, of a lot of corrosion that has come out of the wheel wells, sadly. It got a hold of the edges of the metal body, and it's trying to peel the paint back now. And as we can see, it's literally come out to the point where it's exposed on the outside rather than staying underneath.
And we're talking about hosing things off. You were saying earlier about hosing off under the hood, some areas you can do some carefully?
Absolutely. A lot of times people are gung-ho at cleaning under the engine compartment. That's really not what we need, and the engine compartment really doesn't like that either. There's some very expensive electronic parts under the hood that we don't want to get soaked, but that doesn't mean we can't wipe them off gently or give them a light wash. One of the things that's always concerning is to put cold water on a hot engine. We never want to do that, so we want a cold engine compartment. And we can lightly scrub and whatnot, wash some around the top of the radiator, the top of the fenders, those kinds of things. because of course the same road salt and dirt that's going down the highway comes right through the grill, and just it comes straight through the radiator and ends up getting all over the engine compartment. So do we have to have surgical sweet engine compartment clean? No, we don't. But if we can keep the salt out of there too, that would certainly be helpful.
And one place that's tough to keep the salt out in the winter is, where we're sitting, our feet are when we're driving or inside a car, and you've got some nice mats to show that would be good. Maybe, I guess, there's people that are thinking about next winter, perhaps.
Absolutely. This would be theoretically what an automobile would come with from the manufacturer. This would be typical of a manufacturer's carpeted floor mat. Once again, in Phoenix, it would be perfect. We'd catch a little sand, we'd take it, we'd shake it out, we'd put it back in the car. The sad part of it is that even with the rubber back on these floor mats, which are really industrial grade carpet, they don't do much for catching snow off our boots. They don't do much for catching water and things like that. And generally speaking, they become a sponge and they overflow, and then the inside of your car is soaking wet. And as we were joking a little bit earlier here, it has that lovely aroma of the high school locker room. You really don't want your car to smell like that. And so we found some other manufacturers that actually make some shape-specific floor mats. This one happens to be a very, very well-known brand called WeatherTech, but based on the car's floor mat configuration, WeatherTech builds floor mats specific, so it's not generic. The important thing is, as you can see, is that it actually tries to catch the water. And oftentimes what we do is just put like a absorbing piece of carpet here or something like that to kind of soak up the water if customers would like that. But this gives you the opportunity to kind of fold it carefully and slip it out from the car and dump it out. And you can put it against the garage wall overnight, let it dry off or whatever, and put it back in. These have been an absolute blessing to keeping that nasty smell out of your car.